Hello, welcome to the DraftKings Daily Trot. I'm Big Italy 42, joined once again by Scott Mailwig at Sports25 to Life on Twitter, and tons of aces on the mound tonight. We got some big favorites. We've got some offenses in some good spots and everything, so it's a real nice Tuesday slate here tonight.
Yeah, it is. It's fantastic. Lots of aces, like you said. That's always fun for me. I love pitching aces over trying to scrounge together my terrible guys. Although that worked pretty well for me last night. I threw both of those under 5K pitchers in GPPs last night, and they both had nice games. I came back
Dominated even.
Yeah, I know. I came back. Both of those games were in the 8th inning, and I was like, wait, those scores look great for me.
Yeah, refresh. No,
yeah,
that's right.
Exactly. Marquis scored, 18 on DraftKings, I think, and Warren was at 19.75 or something like that. I mean, Price barely even beat both of them. He struggled a little bit, but...
Yeah, it was a nice night for cheap pitchers last night, that's for sure.
Yeah, it was great. My biggest problem was not playing two shortstops with Iglesias and Troy Tulowitzki, though.
Yeah, well, I'm sure we'll be getting to Iglesias here because he has himself a very nice price tag on DraftKings once again tonight. One of the few guys that's in a awesome spot price-wise here. All right, starting off with these aces we were mentioning, obviously Clayton Kershaw, best pitcher on the planet. If you can afford him, he's $12,400. You're going to want to get him. San Francisco, in a pitcher's park, they're not exactly swinging hot bats right now, but it doesn't matter. Kershaw's surface numbers don't look great, but his strikeout rate is nearly 13 per 9 innings. I mean, he's just getting it done. I'm not concerned anyway. If you can afford him, get him. I think I'll be playing a little bit more of Johnny Cueto than I will of Kershaw because he is $2,000 cheaper. A bigger favorite at minus 200 against Milwaukee. Speaking on Jason Marquis again, he went 8 innings against them last night. Cueto, one of the best pitchers in the game, so we know. I expect much bigger things out of him. And then one other guy I want to throw your way and then see who you're on. Michael Wacha, minus 210 favorite, $8,300 today. My cash game pairing is probably going to be Cueto and Wacha, two biggest favorites on the board. Not that expensive, 18-7 for the two guys. And, that Phillies offense, a 255 WOBA against righties is just absolutely embarrassing.
Yeah, they're really struggling between Utley, Howard. Really the only guy hitting for them right now is Ash, and even he's cooled off a little bit lately. They've been really struggling. I agree with you on all three of the pitchers you mentioned. Animal Sanchez is the other guy that I really like as that second cash game pitcher on DraftKings. 7,700 seems like a great price. Minus 140 favorite at Minnesota, but I'm not overly worried about that being on the road. Minnesota hasn't been hitting much at all. Obviously, Price wasn't great yesterday, but he was. They didn't do anything that scared me away, really. He pitched 6 1/3, I think.
Yeah.
Gave up 3 earned runs. Wasn't a great game, but not going to scare me off Sanchez too much today. I think him and Wacha are pretty comparable options at pitcher 2 there. Gotta love the huge favorite that Wacha is, though. There was one other guy that I was looking at. Tyson Ross is a little pricey on DraftKings for me, but you got to like the matchup there against Houston. Minus 150 favorite, I believe, right now. Like I said, the price is a little high. I'd probably rather just pay up for Cueto if I'm looking at him. I don't really want to pay $1,000 more than Wacha or $1,500 more than Sanchez for him tonight, though, really.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Ross, the only thing going against him is he's walking too many batters, but he's also striking out a ton of guys, almost 27% strikeout rate. We know what Houston does at the plate. They're not as bad as they were earlier in the season, but still striking out a ton. I don't know if you saw last night's game, but James Shields got 12 Ks against these guys last night. So Tyson Ross certainly possesses that upside tonight. I definitely like him in some tournaments. So, I like him a lot. And other guys here, I want to highlight one guy here, get your take on him. Cubs striking out 27.1% of the time against lefties. Jeff Locke, not a dominant strikeout pitcher, but he's got almost a 20% strikeout rate this year. What I love about him is 58.2% ground ball rate, keeps it on the ground, and something's got to give here. He's not striking out a ton of guys. The Cubs are striking out a lot, but either way, somewhere in the middle, Jeff Locke at $6,000 makes for a really nice contrarian play tonight. Yeah,
definitely. I have no issue with him. The only concern there is he's not a favorite, but that's a very winnable game for the Pirates anyway. I don't think you need to be too concerned about it there. Only other pitcher I'm really looking at is going super cheap again, and Chase Whitley for the Yankees against Tampa Bay again. mean, it's the same spot we picked on last night with a super cheap pitcher. Tampa Bay's offense hasn't been getting anything going. Like we mentioned yesterday, you don't really need much at 4,100, especially when the guy's a favorite. So with the way the Yankees have been hitting, I feel pretty good running these pitchers out there at around 4,000.
Yeah, absolutely. So with that, anybody else at pitcher that you like?
Not really too much else.
Yeah,
I'm kind of sticking to the top guys. Otherwise, I'm going to punt basically with Whitley. Like you mentioned, Locke. I don't mind him in GPPs. I mean, you can look at a couple other guys in GPPs, but honestly, I think I'm going really cheap. I mean, there's David Phelps is 4,400 against the Mets, and he's a favorite too. That game might get rained out, though, I saw.
Yeah, and he pitched really well. Oh, and one more thing I should mention now, in case you haven't seen, the Baltimore White Sox game once again postponed today. So won't be playing any of the guys from there. Unfortunate situation there. Obviously, more important than baseball, but either way, to save yourself some money. DraftKings has all the guys listed in red, so you won't be playing them there anyway. But just a word of warning. All right, moving on to catcher here. Love Stephen Vogt today against Jared Weaver, as I always do in any situation. Doesn't matter. He's great against righties. Weaver's been horrible against lefties. 447 WOBA allowed this year. We know he's a fly ball pitcher. He's already given up 3 homers to lefties. Vogt, if I'm paying up, is the guy that I like. He's pretty pricey at 4.2K, though. So it's going to be hard to fit 2 big pitchers and him with a lineup that you love. But I think he's in a really nice spot. Also, A.J. Przinsky, just getting on base every day, swinging a nice hot bat, and he's only 3,400, so I like the discount there, assuming he's in the 5 or 6 hole again. Yeah,
I mean, those are the 2 guys that I'm really looking at. I might look at McCann a little bit. Don't feel great about him, though.
Yeah.
Against Odorizzi, not a great matchup. Przinsky, you mentioned. Norris is a guy I might look at against Hernandez if he's hitting high in the order. He's been kind of jumping around between 2 and 6. I much prefer him when he's hitting second. Outside of that, there's just not really a lot to like at catcher tonight.
No, catcher's pretty ugly. So we're going to go ahead and move on here to first base. Stephen Vogt's teammate is a guy I like a lot of his price tag. Ike Davis, obviously a platoon guy against a righty. He's 3,600. Great price for him. Matt Adams against the guy making his first start. We know Matt Adams, not so great so far this year, but a righty masher. Looks like Severino Gonzalez had some issues with some lefties in the minors, so I like a lot of the lefty bats for St. Louis here. So He's in play. 4,500 is a lot more than I like to pay for a guy who's not particularly swinging a great bat right now, but situation is great. If you want to go way off the wall in a GPP, Adam Lind, great against righties. Obviously going against Johnny Cueto, that's a GPP only play. So don't quote me on that one for cash games, of course. But outside of that, I mean, there's always a lot of options up top. If you're paying up, who do you like here?
I mean, you always like Cabrera. He looked okay last night. I paid for him, and he was just fine. He's a guy that you can run out there every night and feel pretty good about it, though. So, I mean, he's a guy I'm going to look at, but more than likely at third base than anything. I like Votto again against Los. 4,700 is a fine price for him. My concern with him is always the order around him. The rest of the Reds haven't looked great lately. There was one other guy that I thought was pretty solid. Oh, Freddie Freeman against Cole for Washington. I think he's a pretty decent cash game play at 4,600. I mean, I'm not really loving anyone else at first base either. I mean, Prince Fielder's got a lefty-lefty matchup today, which I don't feel good about. Brandon Belt and Posey are both facing Kershaw. Pujols is facing Sonny Gray.
With so many aces on the mound, it's tough with some of these guys. They got good prices, but that's because DraftKings incorporated the tough matchups.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Posey's price is crazy today, 3,600. I would play him literally against any other pitcher for that price.
Yeah,
I don't think there's a single other pitcher I wouldn't play him against for 3,600.
Yep.
One of the guys I was actually looking at was Kana for Oakland. He's 2,800, decent value play. Plays first base and outfield on DraftKings, facing Weaver tonight. Like you said, a lot of these higher price guys are facing aces tonight.
Yeah,
and
I like that call though. 2,800. There's not a lot of guys around that price at any position tonight.
Yeah, right. That's why I was kind of looking around there. I mean, Goldschmidt is a decent GPP play, but I believe he's the highest priced first baseman on the board tonight at 5,600,
He
which
is.
I just don't know if I really want to pay that. As much as I like it going after Kyle Kendrick.
Yeah, especially if you're paying for pitching, it's hard to get $5,600 guys in.
Yeah, that's why I'm looking at some of these cheaper guys, which I don't usually do at first base. I really usually like to get some of these big power bats at first base, but I was looking at Kana. There's one other cheaper guy I was looking at too. Ike Davis is the other one in the same lineup. 3,600, not a bad price, facing a righty. His price finally jumped up a little bit. He's been hitting pretty well, so he's another guy I'll be looking at a little bit. But I really think I might be saving at first base today, trying to spend up on pitchers and saving everywhere as far as hitters go, at least for cash games.
I'm with you there. I think paying for pitching is definitely the way to go tonight with all these big arms on the mound. So moving on to second base here. Robinson Cano in a lefty-lefty matchup, but he's been fine against lefties in his career, and Ross Detweiler has been awful against everyone. Nearly a 500 WOBA allowed against both lefties and righties. So if you're paying up there, Cano in a fine spot. I think a lot of people will be scared off by lefty matchup. But as far as lefties go, Cano is one of the better in the game, so I don't mind him. D. Gordon, I love the stolen base upside. Nice floor with him against Rafael Montero, $4,400 there. Not a lot of other plays at second base that I really, really like. I mean, if you're looking down really cheap, then there's just nothing. Unless we see a guy put in a great lineup spot.
One guy that might fall into that category, Odubel Herrera hit first against a righty last time. Obviously, it's not a great matchup with Waka, but 3,100 with second base and outfield eligibility. If he's hitting in the leadoff spot again, I think he's a fine value play.
Yeah, and he steals a couple bases. He's got 4 steals on the year, so yeah, I like that. If you're not playing Waka, I missed that value play. I like that. One other guy that I'll mention if he's got a nice lineup spot again is Solarte, $3,100. Second base, third base eligibility, batting over 300 today. Maybe he'll bat over 300 today. I don't know, but for the season, but $3,100 is not a bad price for him either.
Yeah, there's not a lot. I mean, I think you mentioned Cano. I mean, don't feel great about that.
Yeah,
makes it tough. Yeah, with Waka being a top pitching option, though, it definitely makes Herrera tough to play. Could look at Martin Prado a little bit. Only 3,700, facing Montero. Not really too scared of that. He's been hitting right in front of Giancarlo Stanton, which is always a great spot to be in. So he's an option tonight, too.
Absolutely. All right, moving on here to third base. Already mentioned the Cardinals lefties in a good spot. As you know, Matt Carpenter, great cash game play, showing a little bit of power, kind of doing it all. And among third basemen that are on the slate today, and this is, of course, excludes Jimmy Paredes, who's averaging 1,000 fantasy points a game. But Matt Carpenter and Todd Frazier up there tied for the highest average per game at 10.6 on DraftKings. So he's definitely getting it done. Nice high floor. And just to further that, I mean, Todd Frazier also in play for your tournaments. Reds have been hitting well. He's got double-digit fantasy points his last 3 games, 4,500 against Kyle Loesch tonight, who he's been okay, but not against righties he hasn't. 490 WOBA allowed, 4 home runs. So Reds righties certainly in play, and Frazier at 4,500 has got massive upside here. Yeah, definitely.
Another guy I like is Chris Bryant against the lefty.
Yep.
He's crushed lefties in the minors. He's been looking pretty good lately. Really hard to argue with that play at all. He's 4,600, but I mean, I think he's a rock solid play today. Same with Josh Harrison, actually, on the other side of that game, facing a lefty in Wood. Been hitting leadoff for the Pirates, especially against lefties. I feel like he's a pretty strong play right in that same Chris Bryant price range. We mentioned Cabrera at first base. Obviously, he's the elite play here. Nothing really special about that matchup, though. Pelfrey actually looked pretty good in the last game he threw, but not a guy that's going to blow you away, so I feel pretty good about Cabrera here. There's one other guy I want. Carpenter is the other guy I was going to mention. You mentioned the lefties against them already, so he's probably going to be my cash game play, I would think.
Yeah. He's so easy in cash games. You go to third base, you get him in a good spot, just go ahead and click him and then move on to your next spots.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, against Gonzalez, I think you can feel pretty good about that. He's up to 4,800, but, I mean, for how consistent he's been, I feel pretty good about playing him at that price.
Yeah. 2 other guys I want to mention here. One has second base, third base eligibility. That's Neil Walker against Travis Wood. You like him hitting from the other side of the plate better, but at the same time, Travis Wood been pretty awful. I mean, I look his ground ball rate on the season is 24.4%. So,
Yep.
I mean, he's getting hit hard. The ball's going in the air. Wrigley Field, that's a combination for a lot of bad things to happen really quickly. And the other guy being Pedro Alvarez. I mean, he's pretty much home run or bust. The guy doesn't hit for average, never has, never will. But at $3,600, I mean, against a fly ball pitcher, I like his chances of maybe getting a hold of one tonight.
Yeah, definitely. You mentioned him yesterday. He's a guy I love for GPPs most nights. Like you said, at 30, he's been hovering around that 3,600 price range, even in good matchups.
Yeah.
And with the home run upside there, he's a really strong GPP play.
Absolutely. Moving on over to shortstop here, where we already kind of touched on one guy, Jose Iglesias. If he's batting in the 2-hole again, hopefully. Brad Osmus, not sure what the hell he's doing most days, but Iglesias has been a great hitter, hitting almost 400. He's walking about the same amount as he's striking out. $3,400 against a bad pitcher today, Mike Pelfrey. I would love to see him in that 2-hole, and I'll be playing a ton of him if he's batting second tonight.
Yeah, he's a really strong play. Like you said, 3,400 is a tough price to pass up.
Yeah.
He would have been one of the top plays at third base yesterday also. I am probably going to play him at shortstop again if he's hitting in the 2-hole. So if he's hitting 9, it makes it a lot tougher decision because I just hate playing guys in that 9-hole. It's not the worst in the Tigers lineup with how good they wrap around there at the top, but we'll see. I think Rajai Davis was hurt yesterday. Is that why he missed the game? I think that's why he moved up to the 2-hole. So I feel like there's a pretty good chance that happens again today at least. And if he keeps hitting, I mean, it's going to be hard to take him out of that spot right in front of Cabrera there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm not a big fan of a lot of other shortstops. I'm really hoping he's second and I can just go ahead and slot him in. Jimmy Rollins is still cheap, but a tough matchup, and he's not hitting the ball at all. He's walking. That's about the only thing he's doing. So, I mean, it's tempting with that price tag, but no thanks for me. Really not going to dig down there. Tim Beckham, if he's got a nice lineup spot, I've seen him batting around 6 a couple times. 3,300, not a bad spot. He's had a couple multi-hit games recently. Not a ton of upside, but he does have a couple home runs in the season. One other guy you could look at is Marcus Semien at $3,600. He's batted leadoff a couple times recently, so if he's up there, nice lineup spot, I don't mind him at that price either.
Yeah, Jordy Mercer for the Pirates against Lefty Wood, I think, is a pretty decent play, too. He's up to 3,800, though, which I don't love. They bump him basically anytime he faces a lefty for good reason. He's a pretty strong play against lefties for the most part. Did you mention Semien?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think he's probably one of my favorite cash game plays if he's hitting high enough in the order. 3,600, just a pretty strong play overall. Yeah. But like we said, probably going to roll with Iglesias if he's hitting high in the order. You mentioned D. Gordon at second base. I think he's a pretty strong play for 4,400 against Montero. Yeah. That's the game where we got to worry about getting rained out, though. So we're going to have to keep an eye on that one, which makes it a little bit tough. Billy Hamilton's a guy that can steal a base, you mentioned. And then Tulowitzki, 5,000 price tag. Looked pretty good yesterday, had a couple hits. I think one of them was a double. Yeah. I mean, he's a guy you can always pay up for if you're not feeling good about the rest of the position. If Iglesias is hitting 9 and the Mets-Marlins game gets rained out or something, I think Tulowitzki's a fine fallback option at worst.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And Billy Hamilton, a guy you can also play in the outfield, so we'll go ahead and leave him and play there for the outfield as well. Outfield doesn't look like a whole lot of guys I feel like paying up for today. Most of the expensive options, not in ideal spots. So Mike Trout, 5,500 against Sonny Gray. Sonny Gray's been pitching really well. I am paying for pitching. It's going to be tough to get a guy like Trout. I don't think he's a necessity tonight.
Yeah, McCutcheon's the high-priced guy I like.
Yeah, and he should be under the radar. We know he mashes lefties. Not off to a great start, but he's still the player he always was, just in a little bit of a slump. Starting to get it going. I like Brett Gardner and Jacoby Ellsbury. They're pretty much the same player, either one of those at 4,700. Jake Odorizzi's been pitching great, but pitching better than he really is. I mean, less than a 190 WOBA allowed to lefties and righties. He's not going to maintain that. And I like either one of those guys at 4,700 there. And George Springer's the guy I really like. Finally starting to get it going. Stole 3 bases last night. Tyson Ross, we already mentioned his struggles with walks. And Springer walked 3 times last night and stole 3 bases. So if he can get on, he's got to can fill it up in a hurry at 4,200.
Yeah, definitely. A couple other guys I like at 4,200. Bryce Harper still floating around down there. Tehran, I mean, he's a better pitcher than I'd like to target, but on this slate, it's really not. He's not one of the guys I'm trying to avoid. So at 4,200, I feel pretty good about that in the lefty-righty matchup. Soler against Locke. I think there's going to be a lot of runs scored in this Cubs-Pirates game today for some reason. So I'm hoping the wind doesn't blow in too hard here. It looks like it's blowing in about 5 to 10 miles an hour now, so I'm not going to worry about it too much. But with lefties on the mound in that game and a lot of righties in the order for both teams, got to feel good about some runs being scored there. Josh Harrison, same kind of boat, facing the lefty. Every time we do this show, I end up talking myself into some stack that I run out there like 5 or 10 times in a GPP, and that's going to be Pittsburgh today, because every time I go through this list, I'm like, oh, I really like him against Wood today.
And everyone else behind him and ahead of him.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to end up with that stack quite a few times tonight.
Yeah.
Matt Holliday.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say Matt Holliday is the other guy I think is kind of an interesting GPP play. He's been hitting it a little better of late against Gonzalez for Philly. You mentioned that you're going to attack him with lefties. He's right in the middle of a bunch of lefties there. That's an interesting stack, and I think he's a fine GPP play in the outfield too.
Yeah, and he got a day off yesterday, so it should be nice and well rested with those home run forearms of his that are Bryce Harper-esque. But another guy, David DeJesus, has been leading off, $3,700. You got to like that price tag. Not a lot of guys around that price that are really worth playing at all. I mean, it makes me sick to even look at a lot of these names around this price, so I'm just skipping past them. If you want to take a shot in a GPP, a guy that's swinging a nice hot bat, Jock Peterson, pretty terrible lineup spot. You don't love the matchup against Bumgarner, but I'm one of the people who thinks Bumgarner's a good pitcher. I don't think he's a great pitcher. So, I mean, I think you can target him in a couple places contrarian-wise in a GPP. And one other guy I like that's cheap, still not hitting the ball particularly well, but if he's back in the lead-up spot, Danny Santana at $3,500 has got a nice upside there with the stolen bases and everything.
Yeah, I see DraftKings lowered Jeff Francoeur another $100 to try and entice me today, too.
You.
They are. I can't play him today against Waka, though, but $2,100 is a steal for a guy hitting fourth every day. It's just not a good matchup. We mentioned Kanaa at $2,800. He's a fine play. You got to kind of ignore Angel Pagan at $3,100 because of the Kershaw matchup.
Same thing with Justin Maxwell.
Yeah, that's also true. $3,200 Sam Fold against Weaver is a decent lefty-righty matchup. I think that's one you can go after for some value in the outfield.
Yeah.
We mentioned Herrera at second base. He's $3,100, but he's facing Waka too. I like that matchup a little bit better than Francoeur, but not feeling great about it unless you're playing him at second base.
Yeah, definitely. All right, I think that's going to wrap things up. We've got some values and everything for you here. Good luck on tonight's slate. Follow us on Twitter at DF Cafe. Check out all of our great content for tonight's action at dailyfantasycafe.com, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.